Welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Our mission is to share what we have learned from our experience and the experience of others to help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate the Discount Property Investor way. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. I am your host, David Dodge. My co-host, Mike Slane, is in the field today. He's actually out looking at 3 properties that me and him looked at online this morning. So hopefully we can buy one of these deals that Mike's looking at today. But regardless of that, I got a special guest on the show today, Khang from Wholesale 2 millions WTM. Bam. My man. Khang, how the hell are you, brother?
Hey, man, I want to say, dude, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be on your bomb-ass podcast.
Hell yeah. I appreciate you coming on, and it's going to be good to connect with you. So I saw Khang speak a year and a half ago at Max Maxwell's event in Dallas, Texas. That was over a year ago. It was about a year and a half ago. And I've been communicating with him a little bit here and there, on social media and whatnot. And I've been following him, and Khang is the man. He gives back so much value to his community. He's always online doing live streams, throwing out tips and tricks on how to wholesale. So he fits in perfectly with our message. Here at the Discount Property Investor Podcast, Khang, we really highlight that you have to be buying at a discount. You make your money when you buy. You get paid when you sell, but you make your money when you buy. So all things real estate. However, we do, kind of specialize or, really point all of our listeners to learn how to wholesale. Even if you want to be a landlord, or even if you want to be a fix and flip rehabber, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you still got to get a deal for any of those other things to work, right? So we're all about, buy at a discount, find those motivated sellers, seek motivation. And that's really the name of the game. So again, I think that your message aligns very, very well with our message. So again, I'm happy to have you here. Welcome.
I appreciate it, bro. Dude, that's what we do, right? 24/7, 365. We wholesale. We find distressed, discounted property, bro.
That's right. So Khang, you are up in the Seattle market, right?
Yep.
So I'm located in the Midwest. I'm right in the middle. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, and I would just think Seattle would be a whole different beast altogether. But you are absolutely crushing it. Again, I follow you on all the different socials, and I see you're doing deals. Your podcast is growing like crazy, so keep that up. I know your YouTube has got a ton of subscribers, which is awesome. So tell me a little bit about the Seattle market.
Well, you know what, man? I mean, so yes, obviously Seattle is hot. I mean, during this right now, I don't know about everyone else's market, but as far as my market right now, dude, I think the price hasn't really dropped. It's kind of at a standstill. So there's no up in price. There's no going down in price. It's kind of at a standstill. As far as my buyers, yes, there are buyers that are very, they're pretty much very kind of like a lot of them are kind of on the fence, kind of, hey, I want to know what's going on right now. I'm going to wait. But obviously there are also buyers that were willing to pull the trigger if the number makes sense. I think a lot of, I think for us is that if the property is probably rented, a lot of the buyers is concerned about property that are rented and then closing on it and then giving the renter X amount of time to vacate the properity.
Yeah, just because there's uncertainty right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, what we do is, before that, when property is currently rented, and our goal is to, lock it up on the contract with the seller for as long as possible, and then we'll find a buyer, close on it as quickly as possible. And then what we do is, if the property is rented, then sometime what we do is we do a holdback, like a $2,500 or $2,000 or $5,000 holdback at the max. But because of the uncertainty with the whole COVID-19, some buyers needs a higher amount. Like I just got off the phone with one of my VAs, and one of the buyers asked for a $20,000 holdback. So before that, we have done deal with this buyer where they didn't have any problem doing like a $2,500 holdback. The property it is rented, so we might have to try to figure out something with them. But seller seller is actually more motivated, that we see that we're getting a lot more deals doing by following up with with some of the seller that tells us no, a couple months before.
So you guys are doing a lot of lead mining in your own database. Then you're trying to.
I think these. Dude, David, absolutely, bro. I think everybody right now, that's exactly what they need to do. We decrease our marketing because we see that there are potential in stuff that are on the market as well. That you should go back to your old leads and start freaking follow up and hit these seller up hard. And I think if you do enough follow up, you will find there's some deals in there, because it happens for us.
Absolutely. I just ran downstairs to jump on this podcast, but right upstairs in my house right now, I got one of my lead acquisition guys. He drove in to come over today, and we've been hitting the phones all morning, and that's all we've been doing is following up. And I've already set 3 appointments for this week and next just this morning from doing follow-ups from our database, from just people that we hadn't talked to in maybe 3 or 4 months, that we had on a long-term, maybe a 6-month or even a yearly follow-up. But what we're doing is we're going back and we're getting to those people early, and we're saying, hey, we told you we'd call you in 6 months. It's only been 3, but the situation's changed quite a bit. So, is there any reason that you would, need to sell sooner? And if so, I'm here. I'd love to set up an appointment and come out and take a look at that property and, make an offer and tell you what we think and, so on and so forth. So I think we are on the exact same page. I haven't really decreased my marketing, recently, Khang, but about 4 months ago we did. So I think that we're kind of in line with where we need to be. I think we are a little bit ahead of the game. We typically are spending anywhere between 10 and 12 grand a month on our marketing. I think right now I'm probably down closer to maybe 4 or 5 grand. If you don't mind me asking, where are you at on your marketing spend on a monthly basis?
Oh, dude, we used to be, oh my God, man, we used to be at 30 to 40K a month.
Wow. You guys are way up there.
Yeah, man. And now we're taking it down. I think we are now with our marketing, I think we're down to like the 10 or 12.
10 or 12. So you were where I was even at my highest now on your lowest, but it just goes to show you there's different amounts of spends that are kind of required to do deals in different parts of the country too.
Yep.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And the thing is, for those of you who are listening, I don't want you guys to get this confused. It's all about profit.
Right.
I spend a lot because maybe my market is a little bit more competitive. David spend less because it's more, so it depends on market. It also, so please don't get it wrong where, Khang spent a lot, maybe he makes more. I just want to let you guys understand it's the net profit.
So that's what's important. I love that. That's such a good thing to point out, because, that's what really matters at the end of the day. If you're spending $10 to make 11, if you're spending $22 to make $24, you're still making $1 or $2. In profit. So it all kind of, equates out. I think that's a very good point. Absolutely. So Khang, are you only doing deals in your own market, or do you do anything virtual? Because, with me being in St. Louis, we market in St. Louis primarily, and occasionally we'll get a deal that's on the outside of St. Louis or even in another city, but somewhere close. And we'll kind of make a deal out of it, but we don't do any virtual marketing essentially, right? We're not doing any marketing in virtual markets at this point. I'm just kind of curious what your approach is.
Gotcha, man. So listen, you guys, man, I get people say this all the time. A lot of people, saying, hey, I'm a virtual wholesaler. Maybe it sounds a little bit sexy. I don't know what it is, but listen, if a property is 5 minutes away from you, 10 minutes away from you, 15 minutes away from you, if you've never seen the property, if you never met the seller, you never met your buyer, you get it done all over the phone, you are doing it virtual.
Oh, so I agree.
So I want those of you to listen. It doesn't mean you have to go into another state to consider that you're a virtual wholesaler. But as for me, man, We're actually in one or two other market beside my state, and we actually do the whole entire state. So I cover the whole entire state.
The whole state of Washington.
And I think, yep.
I love it, man. That's crazy because I don't think there's that many investors that cover that large of a region. So that's really cool that you guys are. And that also, lets me realize that your budget of 10 to, let's say, 30, whatever it might be. Now that makes more sense to me too, because if you were spending, let's say, 30 grand in one city, unless that city's New York or Los Angeles, that's a lot, right? But, and I know Seattle's a large city. I've never had the pleasure of visiting Seattle. But yeah, that makes sense. So you do it all out throughout the whole state. And I agree. I totally agree, Khang. You could do a property that's 5 miles or 5-minute drive from your house, but if you never go, never meet the seller, that is still considered virtual. So I love that. So what percentage of the deals that you do, somebody from your team actually goes and meets the seller versus those that you don't? Is it about half, or how are you weighting that?
0, man. 0, broski. Dude, I mean, we've been virtually wholesaling. So I've been in real estate for 8 years, been wholesaling for 4 years, discover virtual wholesaling 3 years ago, and we've been virtually wholesale 3 years ago, bro.
So you do 100% of your deals.
Yep.
Even though they're in your market. So why? Yep. So let me ask you, Khang, what's the benefit of having a property that's, 10 minutes away, let's say, where it's super easy to get in the car and drive there? Why not go? Like, I don't understand that.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen. I think it really depends on how you want to build your business around your life and how you want your business to look like. So, but before I get into that, man, I want people to understand that even though I'm in Seattle, but I don't do Seattle. The reason why is because I don't get into a market that are $500,000 and above, like ARV. If ARV are $500,000 above, I do not go in that market. If you want to take it, feel free. I like to stick with the bread and butter. So I know some of you, if you're listening to you from New York or from California, or, in an area that prices are $500,000 or 800, dude, let the other people play that game. Go ahead and play the $100, the $200,000, the $300,000 game. Because let me ask you a question. Is there more buyers that have that kind of money, or is that the one that have, dude, $500,000 to $1 million plus?
There's more sellers and buyers for those 1 to 300K range versus the $500,000 plus range. I think that I love that. So when you say that you do the whole state, that excludes probably most of the Seattle metro, right?
Yep.
Very cool. I love it, man. That's very cool. And I appreciate you sharing that, with the
no problem.
With the viewers. I think that's awesome. So you guys do 100% virtual.
Yep.
So let's run through a typical scenario, Khang, if you don't mind, real quick. You guys do your marketing, which I'm sure looks different depending on the approach or the city, right? What kind of marketing are you guys doing? If you don't mind, give me just a couple bullet points on what you guys do.
Yeah, man. I mean, so we used to do a lot of direct mail. We used to do a lot of that. I would say 90% of our stuff are direct mail. Now we have decreased direct mail. We're doing a lot of cold calling.
Me too.
And SMS right now. Yep. What is to kind of decrease our marketing costs as well, because obviously we both know direct mail is the most expensive. And David, I also want to go back and answer your questions about, well, why don't you go see the property if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes away? Or why don't you hire someone that go do that for you? The reason why I choose not to do that, bro, is because what I want to do is I want to eliminate anything that has me to physically or have someone physically go there. Now, there's a pro and there's a con, right? I think everything there's a pro and there's con.
Oh, yeah, there's always a pro and a con. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, we have seller that said, hey, if you don't have someone comes out here, we're not going to do the deal. And I said, you know what? I'm willing to take the loss. I'm willing to say, you know what? This is not for us. Go ahead and find another investor. And the thing is, the reason why, David, would my business change in the future where I would have someone put on the ground and to go take that? Could be. But the reason why a couple years ago I decided to go all virtual, and even if the seller said they're 15 minutes away from me, I would not go meet them, and I'd rather lose on the deal. The reason why I do that, bro, is I want to set myself up where to the point where I don't have a choice but to come up with solution. Solution is like, hey, if you want to go all virtual, Khang, and if you have anything that the seller said, well, you know what, you want to go see on my property, and if you don't, like, basically, if you don't cut it, then the next step you would do is, well, then I'm going to go see it. Well, eventually you're going to caught yourself up doing the same thing. So I decided, man, I want to eliminate that. And dude, and it started to get me asking, well, how can I? And then eventually I started getting, a solution. So if a seller said, hey, they can't send me pictures, I don't have no one to take pictures, guess what? Well, I have to find, is there a company that can do it for me? And yes, we found a company that can actually do it. It's just like Uber, right? That goes out and take pictures for you and send it to your email. And we're like, well, now I have to, well, what about contract, getting contract signed? I can't go there. So dude, David, I used to go and meet seller to sign the contract. So I lock it up in the contract over the phone, but I will still go meet him, right, to go sign the contract. And I said, you know what, Khang, I can't, what if I'm on vacation?
Right.
So like I said, man, so I decided to cut everything out, and then just my mind started coming up with solution is how, and then we find out DocuSign, where you can just send the contract to the seller, so everything all done electronic. And then when a seller don't have an email, so what do? So that's why I decided to do that, bro. I decided whether they're 10 minutes, they're 15, I just want to cut. I want to go virtual. I want to be free like a bird. I don't want to have any, like, my whole entire business is operated from VAs. We have about 8 or 9 VAs on our team. We have a lead manager, a purchase manager, and a transactional coordinator. They're all from the Philippines. They lock the deal up in a contract. So they qualify, filter the lead. They lock the deal up in a contract, and they actually sell the deal. All done by VAs. And
wow, that's awesome. Man. So I got a couple virtual assistants as well, but there is a bottleneck in my business, and you're looking at him, right? I'm typically me or my partners, we have the final say on, if we want to make the offer and how much. Right. But you've even taken yourself out of that role to where you've given and empowered, it sounds like you've empowered your virtual assistants to make those offers and get those under contract. And then you've even gone one step further to say, hey, fuck it, pardon my language, but go sell the damn thing too.
Yep.
Wow.
So the thing is, David, I want everyone to listen to understand, like, so I still run comps because I know my market, I know the area really well, and it doesn't take me much time to run comps. So I will run comps. I will set the offer of, hey, here's the lowest price you're going to start. Here's the max that we're going to pay for the property. And when you're on the phone with the seller, your job as a purchase manager, as a salesperson, to figure out what offer you're going to make to the seller. But I run the comps and I tell them what to offer. Yep.
Man, that's awesome. And I just saw that I think you were over in like Vietnam for like a month or something crazy like that, right?
Oh man, we were there for like a month and a half, and then we went to Thailand, and then we flew all of our VAs from the Philippines in. So it was the first time that we get to meet them there, and that's where the whole Corona also breaks down at the same time, bro. It was crazy. And at the time, I thought it was a joke, like the whole Corona thing, and we just thought it was a kind of a joke, and it'll go away in a couple of days, but crazy.
Man, that's awesome. So Khang, I'm so happy that you're on the show today, man. So you, about 3 years ago, it sounds like you decided, hey, I'm going to take this thing virtual. And I think a lot of people, they have that mindset, or they have that goal, I guess you would say. Yeah, I'd like to take it virtual, but you did it. You've actually done that. And you built yourself out a big team, if you ask me, a pretty big team of virtual assistants, and everything is done virtually. But it's cool because it gives you the ability, like you said, to be free as a bird. So where if you want to go on a month-long vacation, a month and a half, 2 months, whatever, you don't have to think twice about it. Everything's already virtual. So as long as you have access to your own phone or your cell phone or your computer or whatever, nothing really changes on your end, which I think is phenomenal. That's awesome.
Dude, that's right, bro. So if David texts me and said, hey, Khang, let's go on vacation tomorrow. Done, dude. Drop the bag. Let's rock and roll.
Where are we going, bro?
Yeah, man. I got nothing holding me back, dude.
Dude, that is awesome. That is awesome. Khang, let's talk about some of the numbers, some of your KPIs, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So we know that you guys have scaled back your marketing, but you're still spending quite a lot, about 10 grand now. I don't want to deter the new investor, right? You don't have to start with a 10K budget, right? The very first marketing I did, I think I spent $1,200 on some mail. That was about 5 years ago. And that was on a credit card, right? So you don't have to be at, 10, 20, even 30 grand a month. You can work your way up to that. But it sounds to me like you guys have scaled back a little bit to about 10 grand, but that also includes the entire state of Washington. And most people, they don't have a territory that's that large. So I think that makes a lot of sense. How many deals are you guys generally doing on a monthly basis? And what is the average wholesale spread that you guys are shooting for? I guess what's the internal goal?
Yeah, so our average wholesale deal is right around 20 to 25. And I think we're doing about maybe like 10 or 12 a month. And the thing is, I want everyone to listen, to understand that don't get all caught up in the number of deals, but focus on the net profit. Because someone you see online saying, hey, I did 20 deals this month, or I did 30 deals this month. But if they make about 2,000 a deal or 5,000 a deal, and you're sitting here, you'll be like, man, I only did 2 deals this month. But what if your average size deal is 25K? That's
right.
50, that's 50 G.
Who's making more at the end of the month and probably working less?
Hell to the yeah, bro.
Yeah, if you can get that net profit higher, yeah, you can work less, you can do less deals, and you can ultimately make more money than those who are doing more. So, man, Khang, I think that you are crushing it. Not only do you have an average spread of 20,000 plus, 20,000 plus, but you're also doing like 10 of these a month, which is awesome. I mean, I know guys, so my business, we do anywhere from like, let's say 6 to 10 a month, but our spread is typically more like 6 or 8 grand on a deal. Whereas, you're doing like 3 times what we're doing in terms of the net profit on those deals. So I think that is so important and so valuable for the listeners and the viewers here, because it doesn't matter how many deals you're doing. It really doesn't. What matters is that you do some, of course, right? But that the ones that you do, have a good, healthy net profit spread. And like you said, you could do 1 or 2 deals a month and be more successful than the guy doing 30, right? If your net profit is better and higher than all of his combined too. So I think that is awesome advice. Guys, focus on the net profit of the deal, right? Get to the underlying cause of why they're selling and solve that problem, right? I think you would agree, Khang, that, typically when we come across a motivated seller, their true motivation isn't the house. It's another underlying cause or reason or problem. And the house just kind of helps solve the other problem. Like whenever we go out on appointments or we're talking to sellers, very rarely is the house the problem. Usually it's one of 100 other things that they're dealing with in their life. But by selling this house and cashing out some money allows them to take those funds to go solve other problems that they have. And I would think that you probably align with that pretty well.
Oh yeah, dude. And the thing is, David, actually, man, Brian and I, so I just did an interview with Brian. For those of you who don't know Brian, it's House Buying Brian. Oh, dude, the guy is obviously the creative financing guy. And we were just talking about how, focus on playing your own game. Listen to me. If you follow too many people, you need to disfollow a lot of the people. And let me tell you the reason why is because then you're getting so distracted and you're not focused on your own game. Because when you start looking at people, you'll be like, well, they did this much deal. But I'm telling you, it's not about bigger, it's better.
It's better.
It's about profitable. Like, listen, a lot of times, so Brian and I are going to do an IG live too, and let's talk about this. A lot of times you look at someone's business or somebody that you look up to, and you're seeing they have this big, massive, or they're making 150 G's, 200,000 bucks a month, whatever it is, right? And then you look at your business, you'd be like, man, dude, me and one of my VA or one of my employees, we're cranking out 30K or 20K a month. and my overhead is like $1,000 or $2,000 a month. I'm telling you, sometimes you're winning, but you don't know you're winning because you're comparing yourself with somebody that you feel like that is success. But dude, it all comes down to the net. Maybe their overhead is extremely high. And I'm sharing this with you guys. It's not something I read or read in a book or watch a YouTube video on, but I'm actually in a mastermind that it was exposed. And you don't know until you're behind the curtain, and where everybody in there is just sharing, because basically when you're in a mastermind, it's hard to help you if you don't expose yourself, right? If you don't pull your shirt up and show people the scars. And the thing is, and that's what happened. Some of the guys and gals that I'm telling you, I'm not saying all of them, but I'm telling you, if sometimes you see things that you see, sometimes it's not really what it is until
most of the time. I would go on a limb and say most of the time. I mean, especially with social media, that's the highlight reel, right? I mean, people aren't posting, the shitty things that happen in their life or their bills being passed to, right? They don't want to tell you that. They want to show you the best of the best. They want to show you themselves on their best day and their best month, and they're going to keep showing you that in that light. And whenever you get into, starting to open up the books or open up the curtains on your business and, show and compare with other like-minded individuals, AKA masterminds, a lot can come to light there. And I think that is such a good point. And I usually don't have a title to my episode until about halfway through, but you just gave it to me. Thank you. And we're going to go with better, not bigger. I think that rings so true for this episode, because it's not about being bigger. It's like, I don't have a goal necessarily right now of going from, 6 to 10 deals a month to 20. What my goal is actually to take my average deal of, let's say, 7,000 or 8,000 and double it. I want to be doing deals that are more like 15 to 20 grand in net profit. So that's really what we're focusing on. And that's why we scaled back our marketing even about 4 months ago, is because, more isn't better, right? Bigger, like you said, I'm gonna take the words out of your mouth, Khang. Bigger isn't better, right? It's better is better, right? So focus more on the leads that you have, work those leads stronger, work them harder, try to get better prices, and ultimately just focus on the problem, focus on finding a solution to their problem, and the money will come. I love it, man. I love it. I think that rings so true. So true.
Yeah, thanks, man. And the thing is, David, the reason why I bring that up is because I was caught in that. I was caught in.
For how long?
Oh man, I don't know.
Long time?
I think for a while, for at least 6 months. I was looking at myself and I was like, dude, I'm not winning.
You're like, I'm busting my ass working 10 hours a day, and I'm not.
My balls.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, I'm stuck at like 10 deals a month. I don't even know if it's even possible to go higher, because there's not extra time in the day. I'm using all of it. I love it. So you kind of it sounds to me like you had an epiphany one day, and you're like, well, shit, it's not worth working harder. Let's work smarter.
Yeah, man. See, dude, the thing I want people to understand is that when you look at that's why play your own game, man. When you look at your game and you feel like you're not doing what the guys and the gal that you look up to that are doing, and you feel like I'm not winning, and then you get discouraged. But what I'm telling you is sometimes you're winning, but you don't know you're winning because you're so busy comparing your game to someone else's game until you know that they're probably doing the same as you, or probably even less than you. So
100%.
What I'm trying to get to the point is, I was feeling like that for a while, man. I was feeling like that for a while, dude. Right? That I feel like, man, I'm only doing 50K a month or 30K. I feel like I'm not winning because these are the guys that are pumping out this X amount. But when it comes down to the bottom line, I was winning the whole time, man. Come on, man.
Yeah. I love it. I love it, man. But no, that brings so. Go ahead.
No. I'm done, bro. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to reiterate. It rings so true. Guys, it's not about being bigger. It's about being better. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be better than the next guy. It means really that you need to focus on the better leads, right? The leads that are going to generate more money for you and your business, because ultimately that means if you are working better leads, right? You're maybe using your time better. You're maybe using your marketing resources better. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be bigger, right? So you could actually, in theory, and I feel like I've done this recently, we've actually scaled back on our marketing, but we quit chasing bad deals. You know, we just said, hey, listen, this is what we're willing to pay for it. You know, if there's a $20,000 difference between what I'm willing to pay and what you're willing to sell, you know, typically I would try to meet them in the middle, or at least get them to come down some and get that deal done. But now it's just like, listen, this spread's too big. Unless you're willing to come down a whole lot, I'm not interested in being the buyer on this anymore. And what I've found, we've had that mindset, Khang, for probably a year now. And what I've found is that these sellers will come back to you after, 4 to 6 months, whereas I might have been chasing them for 4 to 6 months, right? And I would have, there's this whole thing about meeting in the middle, right? Let's say your offer's here in my left hand, right? And they're here, right? When I meet somebody in the middle, that typically means I'm going to come up about 10%, maybe 15%, and they're going to come down 85%, right? That's what a good deal to me looks like. It doesn't mean that I'm going to come up 50% and that they're going to come down 50%. That's the real middle. I don't like the real middle. I like my middle to be, 10 or 15% above where we originally started at. And when you stop chasing, right, that's the difference there. When you start chasing these people, they see that they have value to you. And without you selling them the deal, there's nothing that can happen. So when you stop chasing these people, what happens, it's just like a dog, right? You let a dog off the leash. You chase the dog runs. You chase the dog runs. Well, you turn around and walk the other way. Well, guess what happens to that dog? He starts chasing you, right? And it's the exact same approach. So I've found over the last, 1 to 2 years, I'd say, that we quit chasing deals. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the spread got any bigger, which is what we're working on right now, as I just said. But what's ended up happening is we're getting deals that might not have been deals because we stopped chasing. Have you noticed anything along those lines in your, 3, 4, 5 years of doing this?
Yeah, man, dude. So the thing is, a lot of times, first of all, I want to go back to what David said. You guys don't understand, right? The people that make 5K or 2K on dude, the one that does 20 or 30 deals, they say a month. Do you know how much paperwork that is?
That's a nightmare. I mean, you have to have 2 or 3 full-time people just managing the paperwork.
Heck yeah, man. That is a lot. So if you can just increase your deal amount, right? That profit amount, dude, less amount of deals, but higher profit. To me, that's a better way to go. Less work, but more profitable.
Khang, I want you to give the audience, and hopefully you can teach me something here as well, but I want you to give the audience, maybe just 2 or 3 things that you would suggest or highly recommend that somebody do or do differently than what they're doing now to increase the deal spread. I think that you are the man to be asking this question to. So, maybe just a couple things. Give me some pointers. What are some of the things that you teach your team or, are constantly talking about with your own team that you can do to increase their deal spread? It's actually kind of funny because I'm just like you. I got a podcast. I'm interviewing people in all these different markets. And when I tell them that my average deal spread's, 6 to 8 grand, sometimes people will be like, yeah, that's right in line with where I'm at. Other times they'll freaking laugh at me, but I don't care. It doesn't matter. This is just the market that I'm in, right? But other times people will be like, oh, I won't even touch a deal for less than 17,000. So I think it matters a lot on where you're at. But regardless of where you're at, what are a couple tips or tricks that you would use to help somebody increase that spread?
You got it, bro. First of all, man, I want to say, dude, 6 to 8K doing 10 deals a month. Come on, man. That's money, dude. That's a lot of money, man.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. We spend about anywhere from 4 to 6 on marketing, and we got a good amount of overhead with our team, but it is good. We're doing okay. I'm not complaining by any means, but I am pushing and striving internally to reach maybe 12 to 15,000 on our average deal, versus let's call it maybe around 7,500 if we were to just kind of average that out.
Yep. So I mean, first things first, if you're in a market that ARV on a property is 50 to like, I don't know, 50, 60,000, most likely that will be your average wholesale fee, 5K, 7K.
Yeah,
right?
and that makes sense.
Yeah, because the spread is just not there. Your home run will probably be like 15K or 20K. Okay. So what I would do if I were you is that you might have to go into another county or another city. I don't necessarily go into another state. You want to go ahead and dominate your own state. Take on another county, another city. I like to stick between ARV of 100 to 350, possibly even in the 400,000. Because within those price range, man, your average fee is, could be that 15, 20, 25, and it can get up to six figure.
Yep.
If you're in a market where the property ARV is 50, 60,000, dude, how can you make 20, how can you make 40K or 50K on a wholesale deal? No way, right?
Yep.
So what you want to do is now you want to look at your market and try to get into a higher price range market, that mid price range, not in the $500,000 and the blah, blah, blah. And then really, man, it comes down to now it's all about negotiating. So when you talk to the seller, dude, start lower. Start where you feel like, hey, if I want to make 15, start lower, man.
No, I think that's phenomenal. So guys, let me recap what Khang just said. In this case, bigger might be a little better. Now it's going to vary, right? But what he's saying is if you buy a house or you have a house with an 100K ARV and you have a 5% markup on that, that's $5,000. But if you have that same 5% markup on a $300,000 house, that's 3 times the cost. That's 3 times the profit. So it's still 5% of a markup in this scenario, which could go either way. But now instead of a $5,000 wholesale, you're at $15,000 wholesale. So Khang, I fucking love it. This is great advice. And the reason that I love this so much, I agree with you, but it's almost like you're coaching me right now because the average house that we're wholesaling in my market of St. Louis, Missouri, I'd say is somewhere between 60 and 80 grand. So if we're getting a $7,500 average spread on that, that's about 10% of the cost of that home, of the ARV, right? We're at about 60 to 80 grand. We're making about 7,500. That's 10%. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to take this and run with it, regardless if you know that you're coaching me here or not, but I'm going to start marketing for those $200,000 to $300,000 houses and see if I can, make that equivalent to still bringing in around 10% of the profit from the cost, which hopefully will bump my average fee of my wholesale fee from about 7,500 up to maybe, let's say 15. Hopefully it doubles. So guys, that is some phenomenal advice, right? If you are struggling with your wholesale fees or you're not happy with those, maybe it's because the property values that you are chasing are on the lower end. And I think that you don't even know about my business other than what I've told you, like literally in the last 37 minutes that we've been on here, right? But I think that you completely nailed it, right? And I have another buddy of mine. I don't know if you're familiar with Ryan Dossey. I interviewed him just recently. He's in a couple of my masterminds. A phenomenal investor, awesome guy. And he was giving me shit, just the same thing, saying, man, you can get those wholesales up. And I started kind of looking at what houses he's going after. And, I don't know exactly, but just from me looking at what he's doing, I think his average, property that he's tackling is, between 150 and 300, which again, makes sense why the wholesales that he's getting or what you're getting are essentially double than the average ones that I'm getting. So we need to up our game a little bit and maybe start marketing in these nicer and or higher end neighborhoods to achieve those results. I think that's awesome. I love it, man. I love it. So you said, negotiation was number 2. Number one was, maybe look at the market and, go for homes that will have a bigger spread, even though the percentage of that spread is going to be equivalent. So that's number 1. Number 2 would be negotiating. What's one more tip or trick that you would say would be beneficial for somebody like me, or even one of our listeners that's, maybe doing 1 or 2 deals a month already, but they're getting really low, like maybe $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 wholesales. What would be another thing that you would say to help them up that wholesale fee?
Yeah, man. So David, number 2 is obviously this is going to come down onto your negotiating. A lot of you, when you talk to seller, you're afraid to come down so low. Dude, you can always go back. You're afraid to come down so low. Okay. But what it is that you need to start low so you can arrive at the price you want. Now, I think everybody, if you do this, anybody can get an extra $2,000 because whatever you market you're in. If you do this, I know that you can get a little bit of more money on your assignment fee. So once you have a seller locked in, you have a buyer locked in, right? Buyer's ready to go. All you need to do now is go back to the seller and renegotiate.
I do this on every one of my deals.
That's it.
Every one of them. And I'm probably like, I don't refer to myself, Khang, as being like a great salesman, but I do feel like I'm really good at making friends, right? I'm really good at listening to people. I'm really good at, trying to help solve their problems. And every deal we do, I try to go back to the seller and get something off. And I would say I fail probably about 80% of the time. So what, guys? If you don't try, the answer is no. So on the 20%, so let's say I got 10 deals coming in this month, and I go to every one of these sellers and I try to negotiate them down a little bit more after I've already found that buyer, right? And 80% of the time, they're going to say, no, Dave, I think that we're going to have to stick with where we're at, and that's fine. But on the 20% of those deals, I'm able to get them down at least a couple grand. I mean, I'm not trying to negotiate $500 off. I'm usually trying to get them down $3,000, $5,000, maybe even $10,000. And 20% of the time, it works. And the deal was a deal before I even made that phone call. So I love it. I think that third tip is probably my favorite tip, guys. Go back to the seller, renegotiate with them. Even if you already have a healthy spread, you never know. Oftentimes, when you go out and you make an offer to a seller, right? Let's talk about the beginning of the cycle here. You do your marketing, the motivated seller calls either you or your team. Your team takes that call and they're working with them and they're making offers to them, and a contract gets sent and signed, right? Well, that contract obviously is going to have a lot of contingencies in it, an inspection period and all that. But in the seller's mind, that property is sold, right? It's sold. So if you come back to them in 2 to 3 weeks or even 2 to 3 months, depending on the terms of that agreement, they thought the damn thing sold and they don't want to start all over from scratch. So oftentimes they're willing to renegotiate with you and they still feel like they won. And that's where, you're always shooting for that win-win here, Khang. You know that. But oftentimes they'll still feel like they won, even though they have to part with 5, 10, maybe 15 grand of renegotiation. The reason is because they're not having to start all over. They thought it was sold a month ago whenever that contract was signed. And now that you're getting down to the crunch time and closing maybe is next week, and in order for them to get the funds next week versus start all the way over, they're willing to part with a little bit of that. So again, phenomenal advice. Khang, you are just filled with gold nuggets, buddy.
Thanks, bro. Thanks, man.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, I don't want the episode to go too long. Let's go ahead and try to wrap this up here. What would be some parting words that you would definitely want to give to the audience or the listeners, the viewers here, about what they can do to get out and do their first wholesale deal if they haven't done one yet? Where would you start?
Got it. Well, first of all, I want you guys to understand that it doesn't matter who you are or where you are today. What matters is who and where you are tomorrow. When I dropped out of high school when I was 17, living in a little shed behind a mobile home park with my wife and I, some of my friends and family looked down on me, man, and said that I was never going to make it, right? But regardless, I put my head down, I freaking grind and hustle. So those of you got to understand that it doesn't matter who you are today. What matters is who you become tomorrow. If you choose to stay the same person, dude, that is your fault, right? And listen, for those of you who's anxious who wants to get your first deal, dude, all you need to do is stick with the game, all right, and take massive actions. A lot of you are not taking action. Dude, you do a lot more talking than you do doing. Come on, man.
I know. That is the number. So I don't know if you have a coaching program or not, but we do. And that is the number one thing that the students come to us with, is its lack of action. Oftentimes, Khang, they will already know everything they need to do. And these are my favorite students, right? Because I don't even have to teach all that much. Instead, I get to motivate, right? And it's like, listen, you know that you need a CRM. You know you need to be doing marketing. You know you need to be following up. How many people have you talked to today? Oh, you haven't talked to anybody today? How about this week? You haven't talked to anybody yet? Nope. Okay. Well, before we even start going down the road to all the things that we need to do, none of it matters if you're not marketing. So let's start there. Let's get some marketing out the door. If you can't afford it, let's put together a schedule where you can trade time, because that's the same thing, right? It's either money or time or both, right? You can either pay for yellow letters and other types of marketing that's going to get your phone ringing, or you can ring their phone. It's one or the other, period, right? So do you have a budget? If you do, great. Let's figure out a good strategy. If you don't, well, then let's put together a time budget. How much time are you willing to allocate to outbound cold calling, cold texting, networking, door knocking, bandit sign hanging, whatever that might be, to get those deals? And that's it. That's where we start. Take action. This business, I like to say this, Khang, this business is so incredibly simple, but it's not easy. There's a big ass difference between simple and easy, right? The simple part is something I can teach you really, really quick, right? The easy part, or the not so easy part, is the action. That's where you come in. How much are you willing to hustle and grind to get that deal? So, man, we align so perfectly with our messages, because that's what it is, taking massive action. And I want to say one more thing real quick. When I saw you speak for the very first time at Max's event, and this is probably 15, 16 months ago, I had already been wholesaling for 4 years. I wasn't at that event to like learn how to wholesale. I was at that event to meet 4 or 5 people. You were one of them that I could take away from, that had something that I didn't, right? And I'm no stranger to hustling and grinding, but when I heard your story about growing up being poor and like having like a dirt floor, and hopefully that's the same story that I remember, but you were just like, man, I got myself out of that situation and I'm wealthy now, right? And I did it because I worked my ass off, right? And that's what stuck with me the most. It's like, man, it is possible for any and all of us to be successful. It's just how hard and how bad do we want it? Right? I could tell when I met you, man, this guy works hard, but he's successful. And that's what it is. That's where you get it right there. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, bro, dude, David, I want to say thank you so much for the kind word. And the thing is, you guys, so basically David already talked about the mindset. Why don't I give you something that you can walk away with? And if you promise me, if you can commit to this for the next 30 days and execute and take massive action, there's no reason why you can't get one deal under contract. And here's exactly what you need to do. I want you to I want you to hook up with an agent, ask the agent to send you over, and this is free. This costs you no money, man. So there should be no excuses. So I want you to call the agent up and tell the agent to send you over anything that is expired listing 7 to 8 years back. Expired listing. And let me tell you.
Wait, hold on. 7 to 8 years back? So you're saying like expired from today all the way back?
Yep.
So that means, okay, I just want to say one thing. Guys, if you live in a somewhat decently good size market, that's going to be like thousands of leads, not 30 leads, not 100 leads. That's going to be thousands of leads.
And then what you want to do is once you get that list, man, what you want to do is you want to skip trace using truepeoplesearch.com. It's
free.
Completely free.
Completely free.
Truepeoplesearch.com. Frickin' put that list in, pound the frickin' phone and call them up. And let me tell you why pending listing is so great. These are people that want to sell. They put the property on the market, but for some of whatever reason, they can't sell it. And when you go 7, 8 years back, that's when the price was at a different price. Okay? So now the most sell at the time, dude, let's just say they want to sell for 100K. And now the property probably has to appreciate and maybe worth like 150 or whatever the case may be. Dude, in their mind, they're going to start negotiating with you at the price that they want 7 to 8 years ago. And
Man, I never even thought of that. That's a killer nugget.
Dude, and then guess what? Then you take off the realtor commissions, the repair costs, and that's where the negotiating comes in, and that's where you get deals, man. When I first started out, I hit expired listing hard, and dude, it got me so many deals. Promise me 30 days for the next 30 days. Execute every single day. I can't see why you can't get a deal under contract by going with expired listing.
So, and this is great. I 100% agree with you, Khang. And I want to just re-emphasize a couple quick points. Guys, It doesn't cost a thing to call an agent and have them send you over that list, right? Like I'm literally going to maybe go upstairs once I'm done with this podcast and pull a list just like that and go skip trace it. Number 2, you can skip trace for free on truepeoplesearch.com. It's funny that you mentioned that because I use that as well. We use TLO, we use Batch, but we start with True People because I don't know. What would you say that the percentage of the time the data is right? 50%, maybe more?
Yeah, man. See, the thing is, you guys are just so over analytical, like analyze things, dude. It's free. You got no money. Fucking just do it, man.
Yeah, just do it, right?
Just pound the phone, dude. Who
hit the phones.
30%. Who cares if it's 10%? What if the search would only give you 5% accuracy? Do you have another solution? You got no money, man. Do it the free way. Just freaking put in there and pound the phone, dude.
I freaking love it. You nailed it. But the cool thing is it's not accurate 5% of the time. It's really closer to like 50% of the time. So even if it was 5, it's worth doing. You nailed it.
Yes.
But we have found crazy amounts of leads and deals from True People Search. And this sounds like a commercial. I promise you it's not. But start there, guys. It's absolutely free. You can do one-offs in there, and that's where you need to start. So expired listings, 7 to 8 years back. Go hit those people. Use True People Search to do free skip traces. Call them up. There's a reason that they can't sell or haven't sold. Find out what that is. Try to solve that problem. Boom! You nailed it. Khang, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. There has been a crazy amount of value and gold nuggets exchanged here. I'm grateful for your time. I appreciate you. And on that note, we're going to sign off. And this episode right here is going to be called Better, Not Bigger with Khang, the man.
Thank you so much, bro. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Until next time, we will be signing off. Remember, right? You make your money when you buy. You get paid when you sell. Last but not least, if you are in the wholesale business, you have to understand one simple concept. You are in the marketing business. You are not in the real estate business. You get in the real estate business, in my opinion, when you start taking risk and you start rehabbing, you start flipping, you start buying rentals. But as a wholesaler, you're really in the marketing business. So make sure that you understand that when you get into this business, because it's going to be very difficult if you don't have either a time allocation for marketing or a monetary budget for marketing. Khang, thanks again for coming on the show. Signing off, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, please visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you in advance for your support, and remember, you make your money when you buy, and you get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth.